Welcome to the Nathan.net. In today's video, I'm going to be setting up some virtual servers with virt-builder. I was looking for a way to build virtual machine images quickly without downloading ISOs. virt-builder by default pulls pre-built signed images from builder.libguestfs.org, but you can set your own repository by passing source and fingerprint. The pre-built images have the ability to be customized and make standing up virtual machines much easier. The man page for virt-builder is a must-read. As you can see, this thing is huge, and it has a lot of good information with examples in it. I'm impressed with the man page, it's very well done. Let's see how large it is. Wow, it's 1500 lines. So if we take SSHD config, which is the SSH server, it's how I log into most Linux systems. In comparison, it's a very important service, and you can see it's only 700 lines, so there's a lot to this virt-builder. You can see all the images available with virt-builder -- list. As you can see, there's a lot of distributions here, but it's also not just Linux. There's a BSD in there. I think that's the only BSD I see. In today's video, I'm going to use Alma Linux. And it's 8.5, but we're going to be able to update that to 8.6 during the build. It's really good to take this image name right here, I'll do that one, and look at the notes for it. And you can see that with the notes with this one, it says it's just unmodified core group packages. So this is a base bare minimum install for like a Red Hat based distribution. Let's take a look at the Ubuntu ones. So this is a minimum install, and it's saying that information about the account and also the first boot command you need to add to create your SSH host keys, which that's very important information to have that you wouldn't have necessarily if you did not read these notes. So it's good to check the notes for each distribution. I created a directory to kind of play with this. I called it KVM images, and I'm going to do all my work from in this directory. You see, I'm going to delete this one because it's already there. You can see I have the whiteout pub, which is a public SSH key, and I'm going to use that to authenticate and log in without a password. And I also have a pre-built image here that I haven't done anything with yet. Let's build a virtual server. I'm going to explain this command while it's running because it takes a little bit of time. It could be faster. I added some stuff, and I'll go into that makes it take a little bit longer. So it's going to download the image from the website, but it's going to cache it. So that's why it's so fast this time, because I've already done that image. In this example, I'm using time to see how long it takes. I'm running it with sudo. The man page says you do not have to use sudo, but I have found that you do have to, otherwise it's going to error out. I'm running the command virt-builder. I'm giving it the version of the distribution I want to run. I'm also passing it a host name. And the install command allows you to install packages. If it's a Debian base, it's going to be apt with the dpackage. And if it's a Red Hat base, it's going to be RPM with either yum or DNF, depending on the version. With this, I'm actually using, it's going to use the DNF command, and I'm installing the server group, and that's going to give me things like bash completion and a lot of tools that are really needed. It's going to be ifconfig, which I'm used to using instead of the IP. I think ifconfig's a little easier. I'm also installing the guest agent, and that's going to be for Ansible. I'm telling us to update the OS, so it's going to do like a DNF update in this case, so it's going to actually take it from 8.5 to 8.6. That's why I didn't put the 0.6 in the minor version in the name. I'm also doing the SSH inject, and that's taking that SSH key file and it's going to put it as a root user. You could do other users, but you also need to add the command to add those users with the first boot command. Because I'm doing that server, it's installing Network Manager. Without that, it boots up fine. But because I installed those packages, it actually came up with the wrong device name, and I'm not sure why. But adding this fixed that and allows it to boot. I'm also editing some files right here. First boot can be used to run commands or scripts. Edit can be used to edit configuration files. If I didn't disable SE Linux, I found that I have to do an SE Linux relabel, which is a command that virt-builder has, and all that does is it just touches a file and slash. I had to do that because of the SSH key for root over here. That it didn't work without doing that. I'm also editing the agent, and By default, it blacklists commands from the agent that are allowed to do stuff on the OS, and I need to do that for Ansible. I'm also setting the size, and I'm going to have a little insert right here about the size if you get an error. So if you get this error right here about the unable to expand, you need to install this libguest fs xfs, and it wasn't a dependency on the package. And I'm on Linux Mint 20.3 right now, and I thought it would be part of the dependency, but it wasn't. But this is setting the disk size of the image. I'm setting a file, so if I do not do this by default, it's going to call it something like alma 8.5.image. So I'm actually giving it a file name so I can have a server and a client for my testing here. It's going to install a bunch of packages, and it's going to do an OS update, so we'll come back when that's completed. So what it did is it downloaded the image or pulled it from cache, uncompressed it, resized it to 10 gigs. By default it is 6 gigs. It opened the disk, set a random seed, it configured the host name, it installed the packages and groups, it did an OS update, it then injected the SSH key for the root user, it ran the command that I had right here, it edited 2 files, and then it set the root password. And if you don't pass the password, it does a random password, which isn't too secure. It might be better just to pass it one that's random and a little bit stronger than that. And then it does the output. It has the name of the image, which we passed over here. It has the size, which we told it was to be 10 gigs and not the default 6 gigs. There's the format, which you also have some options to change right there. And then there's the usable space and the free space in it. And then because I passed the time or started with the time command, it actually shows how much time it took, and it took 10 minutes. So without resizing the disk and doing updates, it gets a lot faster than that. It was about 8 minutes without resizing the disk. This is the command to actually install it and start up the guest image. I'm going to start it with sudo. I'm going to give it the virt-install command, and then I'm going to give it the name, and this is going to be the name of the image. And instead of this, I'm going to call it, because I called this other one server, I'm going to call it /server. I'm going to give it 4 gigs of memory, 2 CPUs, and then I got to give it the disk path here. And I'm going to remove that because I actually gave this one a different name. And that's going to be the actual path. The import, instead of going to do the install because it was already done based off of an image, it's going to just import it, and that's going to make it super fast. No console, and I don't like the console because it doesn't copy and paste, and then if you accidentally full screen, you have to center ahead, hit Alt plus Control, and then it gives you a little icon to exit full screen. It's just awful. The next thing is this is just specific for the guest agent, and without this, the guest agent doesn't have a way to communicate and connect to the host machine here. So this sets up kind of the virtual connection between the host machine and the guest agent. So we'll kick that off right now. So it's actually did the install, which it just imported it, and it started up. There's a couple different ways to look at the IP address so we don't have to bring up the console. The first one is the one I like the best, and it may take a little bit of time for this to show up depending on how long it takes to boot. Like if I did the SE Linux relabel, it would have taken longer, but so you can see we do not have, there it is. Now it actually booted enough that it got a DHCP address. So this is the IP address of the server. We can also pull this information with the agent since we have that installed, and this is a good test if you're doing the agent to make sure it's working. And I gotta give it the right name. I was like, oh no, it's not working. And if I give it the right name here that I did, you could actually see that the agent's working and it pulled the IP address from there. So next we'll SSH into this server, and I'm going to do it as root because that's the only account that's set up right now. And then I'm going to give it this IP address right here, and you don't have to give it the /24. It's going to ask us now if we want to accept the fingerprint, and this is the authorized hosting, yes, and there we go. And we can cat Etsy, if I can type cat, and we can cat Etsy red hat release, And we could see right here that we're on 8.6 because it did the updates. I've also used this process and commands with the CentOS 7 image, and it's worked fine. A link to the blog post with all the commands I ran can be found in the video description below. In the next couple videos, I'll be building on this with Ansible, so please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.